You've all probably guessed by now that I love history as much as I love railways. I spend more time in museums than anywhere else, and a perfect day out would be for me visiting as many as possible. I am lucky that two national museums are not far from my home. One, of course, being the National Railway Museum, and I visit frequently, mostly to use their library. But the other is one that many don't associate with me, and that's the Royal Armouries. The Royal Armouries is a treasure trove of centuries of weaponry and tools, all from the National Collection. From the latest cutting-edge technology to the downright weird, this museum has everything dedicated to arms and armaments. One of the more unique areas the museum has is a tilt yard. The tilt yard is an area where the majority of the summer outdoor activities take place, and it's here that the museum showcases its jousting competition. This competition pits knights from all over the world, and the winner lives the coveted silver horn. But when you watch a joust, as is tradition, the knights wear armour. The armour, understandably, covers every part of the knight's body, and taking off this armour is very time consuming. And this has been a problem for centuries. Considering all knights wear silver and their faces are normally covered, how do you tell them apart? The answer, of course, is heraldry. 900 years ago, when knights were having this problem, knights would paint colours or animals on their armour or their shields to tell them apart, called a coat of arms. Over time, a heraldry code would develop based upon the language the knights spoke, which was Norman French, and this governed the colour, the shapes used, called ordinaries, and the charge, the emblem or the animal. The more influential you were, or battles that you won, the more elaborate the coat of arms could be. Soon, charges could represent certain characteristics and even royalty. There is a good story of a wealthy family who lived in a castle nearby, whose son, upon saving the king from a boar attack while hunting, granted him a knighthood and the permission to use the boar in their family crest, a tradition still strong 700 years later. Heralds, which were once crucial for passing messages on the battlefield, found themselves having to become experts in this field just to recognise their own knights. We fast forward now hundreds of years to the early railway world, where the railways were facing the exact same problem. Each railway had to distinguish themselves from one another, not only on the tracks but on paper too. Logos and branding were not quite there yet, and with hundreds of companies cropping up, the railway companies looked back to history. All railway companies, even today, start with a royal assent. This has remained unchanged right from the beginning. Even public railways have to receive the royal treatment. For the royal assent to become legal, a seal from that railway was applied, usually in wax using a handmade metal die, and it was this seal that contained the railway's coat of arms. But a railway just couldn't make up a coat of arms. It had to be approved with the College of Arms. The college has been around for as long as heralds and governs the use of coats of arms, and companies had to apply for a grant to get one. Now, there are strict rules. The company must be incorporated in the UK or a territory where the king was head of state, must be well established and have a firm financial base, and must be a leading body in its field. If the company's petition for a coat of arms is successful, then the Earl Marshal would add his warrant so the designs of the arms could begin. The heraldry was elaborate and would contain aspects from the coat of arms from the towns the railway were linking up. For example, if we look at the East and West Yorkshire Junction's railway die, it was made of half a Knaresborough's and half a York's coat of arms. In the case of the Liverpool and Manchester's railway's coat of arms, it consisted of the Liverpool and Manchester's crest connected with a ribbon, and so on. Once the design was approved by both the college and the company, and checked to make sure it was unique, it was submitted to the King of Arms for approval and sent to a painter within the College of Arms to add what is called the vellum or the patent. It was then sent to a scriber to inscribe the text, and once all of that was done, It was signed and sealed by the King of Arms and added to his official register. Only after it was registered could the company then use it. The first object to usually have the coat and arms from a railway is usually the die. Now this was usually handmade by a blacksmith or a silversmith and would be an elaborate seal and normally used to make large wax seals for documents. Over time, companies soon transferred these coats of arms from paper to rolling stock and its platforms, first-class passenger carriages and director saloons, and sometimes the very engines themselves were given the company's arms. They were all hand-painted, with some carrying gold gilt. Now this would have taken several hours to produce, even days, with skilled painters to ensure that they were as accurate as possible. Other things such as benches on platforms and street lamps and even the plates that the railways were using on their dining service would receive the coat of arms treatment. On one side, it looked fashionable and uniform. On the other, it stopped others nicking their stuff. Although England and Wales railways had free rein to use whatever they wanted to create their coats of arms, in Scotland the railways were not so lucky. Scotland, eager to keep some form of decorum with their heraldry, imposed strict restrictions on their railways, and when it came to the arms, only 3 were able to get grants from the college. The merging of the 130 companies into the Big Four spelled an end to a lot of these coats of arms use. And with the development of the modern logo, the use of arms became less and less. Although traditional, it was felt out of place against modern railways, especially when British Rail wanted to rebrand to a new, sleeker design. Although the use of heraldry was used around even in the 90s, where the GNER still used a coat of arms for its mainline routes and displayed it rather proudly on their engines. Today it is more common for railway companies to use their own logos, and although the majority of the private sector will soon become Great British Railways, it is doubtful that a coat of arms on trains will appear again. The warehouse of the National Railway Museum holds over 300 different coats of arms in hundreds of forms. 2 large drawer racks near the entrance hold the wax seals and the metal dies. The wax seals are understandably very fragile and currently locked away from the public and heat and light, which could damage them, with some undergoing extensive conservation just to preserve them. Other examples include a table which have die seals mounted within them, and even a coat of arms from a hotel painted on the back of an old turtle shell. In old stations such as York and Newcastle, it's still possible to see the old crests and coats of arms, and the Grand Hotel in York still display its coat of arms from the North Eastern Railway, a timely reminder of where the headquarters was once based. If you visit a heritage railway, there is no doubt you will see these logos. At Emsey, we host not 1 but 2 royal carriages, as well as several director saloons, all needing their own crests and logos. The vast majority are hand-painted and covered in gold gilt by our skilled painter, and great care is taken to ensure they look perfect. It's a small detail, easily overlooked, but it's these small details that really make the rolling stock, even back then, stand out amongst the rest.